Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Top of the Hat, at your service. We're going to be talking about a true story here. This is no falsification, no nothing, right? During the 1950s and 60s, it was a very prime time for steam, as we all know it, and we all know about the Northwestern Railway being dismantled to a certain lot of degree at that time, as we all know. Then people are asking, why is the Flying Scotsman got a lot to do with it, right? The thing is, the Flying Scotsman is very not just a family friend and connection or private connection to a very degree, right? The Flying Scotsman has the personality, yes. The engine number 4472 is what we call it, right? Is a grizzly design locomotive, right? But his personality is on the North Norfolk Railway or the Northwestern Railway during the 1950s and 60s. So when you think, oh, of course, he's my great uncle's best friend, obviously. But we won't go into deep detail. This is why I'm going to slow it down for you. The Flying Scotsman is well preserved, well used, well respected. He's a Sir Nigel Grizzly's design, which it is the Grizzly design. Yes, the personality to that engine is somebody, a friend of a family, very powerful friend, and an ally, if you will. Right? The North Norfolk Railway are probably going to watch this video and end up being pissing in their pants. Right? Because right, in the last podcast about understanding principles, right? It This is a little bit more delicate because everybody wants to know who the Flying Scotsman is, right? He's my great uncle's best friend and a friend of a family, right? I know a lot of you out there know who was the main personality to the Flying Scotsman itself, right? We know that because it's been said and known, right? As the Sheringham Station, known as Wellsworth Station, right? We acknowledge the mistakes that happen in our turf, on our turf for obvious reasons. You see, the steam team existed in 1958 and 1960s, right? A lot of people will say, where is the legendary Flying Scotsman's personality? The human form. Where is he gone? One of a kind. The engine 4472, the Grizzly design, is no ordinary engine. He is well respected and he was a brother to Gordon, as you know, on the fictional side, but in reality, they are best friends. A connection, if you will. And acknowledge that all of this is all true. You think the steam team are going to be pulling down so easily? No. Every generation is going to go through all of this story every time if we don't often see eye to eye. Right now, you're seeing the events unfold naturally, as they would, right? But very slow process. What you're seeing are the Flying Scotsmen, right? A friend of the family, a Grizzly connection, and then it ends up with Gordon's connection. Why is that? Gordon is actually a brother to the Flying Scotsman, but but they are best friends in real life. So is my great uncle is best friend with this individual. Right? We all established that the Grizzly has their own descendants through marriage, through connections, through everything like we all do, and acknowledge that the Flying Scotsman was a real life person you could talk to. Someone that will respect any engine, doesn't matter if it's or any person that has the personality to any engine. And the respect is the biggest thing in life, which I'm going to make the value lesson on this because the Flying Scotsman has a lot of respect today as a proper engine. But who's driving it? It's not just the driver. But if the Flying Scotsman had a face today, who would it represent? Now, a lot of you in sharing them, may I add, private connections and all, will understand who I'm talking about. I tell you now, being honest, my great uncle lost a best friend because of this tragedy in sharing them. Now, why do I know that information? You got the Flying Scotsman engine still running, right? You know, a private connection in America stated this to you and acknowledged that every engine that's still running has been running by the dead people, spirit of people, individuals that we don't even see anymore, right? I acknowledged, right, that because that was true on the very first video, right? People don't expect that a lot of people we care about have been surviving all these years. The Grizzly family are well known and well respected, but they also best friends of the Hatts, connections to the Hatts. So what happens when all of you feel like, why is the Flying Scotsman involved? The 4472. I said there's Gordon's brother, obviously, but also best friend, and also my great uncle's best friend. Why is 1958 so important? Why is it so important? Because that's the only time I got two photographs of this to make sure to tell you that the Flying Scotsman who has that personality is no longer with us. So acknowledge that it's already happened. You can't go back and fix that problem because it's so deep in the past. But the engine itself is still driving today. So when people say certain things, and I quote, Flying Scotsman is one of the best engines on the fleet, right? Well respected, well adored, and the best person, best family friend and connection I will ever have. And I will quote this because Flying Scotsman has been part of the Grizzly family and their descendants, which makes the easiest part of all, right? The Grizzly family are no longer alive as such, but their descendants are with me. Why is that? We don't talk to each other because we keep the peace. Why is that? A lot of you know the answer. especially in Sheringham / Rollsworth, and we all know what the answer is, even me. But the Flying Scotsman is no ordinary person or engine. The personality to the person is gone, right? The respect of that individual. But in the day, when you see that engine, think of the Grizzly descendants. Why? Because the Grizzly's descendants still live. And I'm respecting their wishes to a point because I'm not giving out their name, the person's name who's had that personality for the Flying Scotsman. The Flying Scotsman has a lot to do with it. Even my great auntie Molly, right, who was reincarnated in season 7. Yes, Molly special. Now, that is also best friend to this individual. So the descendants of the Flying Scotsman is still around. But they always keep themselves to themselves. We acknowledge that the Flying Scotsman is still floating about driving, keeping going and going and going and going. Why? This is not a joke. This is not equation, but the equation is always in the answer. Why was my great uncle, my great auntie, was best friends with this individual in highest esteem, respect. So when the Flying Scotsman drives along in Scotland and all of that, don't even come to the UK. Why? Or don't come to us. Why? The Flying Scotsman engine itself is so well respected. It's also part of the London North Eastern Railway Company. So work it out. So when it did come to Sodor at one point, the personality of the individual had that storyline, but not too much, may I add. So ask yourself a question. The Flying Scotsman, the person, and the engine were once basically the person who had the Flying Scotsman personality used to help to build the Flying Scotsman. So the Flying Scotsman personality was within this individual as a descendant of the Grizzly family. So what happened to him? Right, my great uncle, my great auntie were best friends with him. I'm still friends with them. But why? A descendant of the Grizzly family is my best friend and connection. So when the Flying Scotsman is driving along the Yorkshire line, etc., as it does, right? Acknowledge it's true, it's not false, but the personality that had the Flying Scotsman's personality was in the photograph of the 1958, but a problem occurred on our turf at Sheringham Station / Rollsworth Station. So work it out. It's all true, it's all logic, and it's all fact. Why? The Flying Scotsman did not do nothing wrong. He was there on the job doing his duty. The Flying Scotsman was on duty. Not the engine, the person that owns that personality. See, by watching it, you're understanding that the descendants of that individual wants to learn it's in the memory of, because I'm not giving out their Grizzly's descendant's name, right? I am establishing it to respect the individual that worked on Sheringham Station at the time for such Wellsworth. But why? You had all the 5 members of the steam team plus the Hatt family at the same time. So work it out. This is 1958. This is a photograph that's spreading the word, telling the steam team has returned. Why? Let me put this in perspective to you, right? The Flying Scotsman, the engine itself, is all driving, working and going, but it's not been used as frequent as it can be. Why is that? It's right. The Grizzly descendant will override the protocol for this, to able for it to run constantly on a smaller stretch of the route. The B12 and the Flying Scotsman are very similar, but their speeds are a little bit different. They established Hazel, as what I call the B12, Hazel as her gender, that's what you call sex, right? We established that. The B12 is a female named Hazel. Bang, that's the engine itself. So establishing that, why was the Flying Scotsman so well secured to Gordon and well respected and all? Connection, a family friend. Now what you got? The same routine over again. The truth is out for the Flying Scotsman. But the thing is, you have the engine somewhere else, but the person that had that personality is gone. Right? You can't retrieve that individual because he's no longer alive. Right? That's why I respect that, because I want that boundary to be safeguarded. It's already safeguarded, can't be touched. But the engine itself, the Flying Scotsman of 4472, is well known. Why? I will, end of the day, like I said, it's my great aunties and uncles' best friend. And I'm going to continue to let you guess yourself. It's a grizzly descendant. That's all I can say. But the Flying Scotsman is based on a true event, true story, a real life event, because it's based on our family, friends, and all our connections and colleagues and all of it. It's all connected. We're like a big tree, if you will, that grows all the time. But we have to establish everything around us. So when the Norfolk Railway fucked up, excuse my language, and acknowledged they screwed up there, right, the diesel team screwed up, right, we established that. But by booting all of us out, the fat controllers on the outside getting everything. But like I said, the Flying Scotsman is not nothing to be laughed at. So when you think if my family got all reincarnated in the Thomas franchise, ask why is a Flying Scotsman in it? Best friend of the family. Because that's what it is. That's why I'm keeping the Flying Scotsman's personality's identity a secret. Not a complete secret, but acknowledged as a descendant of the Grizzly family. Thank you very much.